where to begin? I mean, it's not just that he's, part of arguably America's most famous political dynasty. But here he is, in an extraordinary, influential and powerful position, just getting on television and in an angry, sort of unhinged way, lying, disputing settled fact, disputing settled medicine, and frankly saying things that aren't just, incorrect about what happened in the past, but frankly are dangerous for America's health going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I am not a polite doctor like Dr. Awan. I'm a slightly less polite journalist. So I can describe this guy as a nut job. He's a nut job. Let's just be frank. Where he gets his information through various conspiracy theories, and how he communicates it, what he's doing with his job. I mean, he's been cutting funding for mRNA vaccine research. It was the mRNA vaccine that got us out, at least partly got us out of this pandemic. But the claims, one after the other, I mean, it's a bit like the flooding the zone thing. It's extremely hard to fact check so many whopping untruths in real time. I think Dana did a great job trying to do that, but it's just a sort of gusher. The person who should have been hauled up before Congress last week was not Dr. Fauci, who is clearly a sort of demon in RFK's mind. And by the way, the Fauci diaries were supplied to Ron Paul's committee by RFK Jr., the person who should be up before Congress answering questions, if Congress were doing its job, is the Secretary of Health and Human Services. What are you doing to prepare for the next pandemic? What are you doing to deal with the current measles epidemic and other epidemics? None of these holding to account moments are happening. And instead we get, RFK Jr. telling Dana Bash, saying to her, you're not a doctor. Well, he isn't a doctor either. He's a quack. He gets his theories of the world, whether they're about, autoimmune disease or Lyme disease being a product of gain of function, another falsehood. He told Dana Bash in that interview. He gets his theories of the world from cranks, from conspiracists, and claims to be an expert in medicine. And I should just mention one other thing. During COVID, the actual pandemic itself, RFK Jr. said that the vaccine had been engineered. The virus COVID-19 had been engineered to exclude Jews and Chinese. This is the kind of person we're dealing with. He shouldn't be local dog catcher, let alone Secretary of Health and Human Services. And I apologize for being so blunt, but it is what it is. We have a nut job in charge of federal public health.
You can't have, David French, you can't have both the highest death rates in the world and the lowest occupation of ICUs. Not that any of the secretary's interview was coherent. But what do you think the danger is? I mean, it was actually pretty upsetting to see the trucks that New York City had brought in to operate as morgues. I mean, it really brings you back to March of 2020 and that terrible summer. What do you think the danger is just to the country to misrepresent that trauma and what actually happened there?
What we're dealing with is an enormous amount of civic ignorance in this country. We're dealing with a wash of misinformation, a wash of conspiracy theories. He's a man who could take us from civic ignorance into civic idiocy. I mean, this is a situation where we've got somebody who's the most prominent public health official in the United States, he's just spewing lunacy into the public square, just absolute lunacy into the public square. And the problem is, a lot of its constituents have sort of created this sealed off media environment where they're going to just get a nonstop avalanche of propaganda about the medical establishment, about vaccines, about the mainstream media. And one of the tells is the way in which they just pin everything on Fauci. When, as was pointed out, as Dana Bash pointed out quite well, he couldn't close down anything. This was something, the lockdowns, these came from governors. They had the police power. They had the authority to close down our cities, closed down our states out of concern over the pandemic. Fauci was an advisor, and he was most critically an advisor during the first Trump administration. So this is all happening with Trump as his boss. And so they're demonizing a person who did not have independent authority. They're letting off the hook Trump himself, who it's a matter of public record. I remember when he was all over Governor Kemp of Georgia, when he didn't want Governor Kemp opening up. I mean, we're just in the middle of a massive amount of revisionist history right now. We're in the middle of a massive amount of misinformation about public health coming from the nation's public health authority. And we're moving towards civic idiocy on public health, at least in parts of America.
It is terrifying to think how unprepared we would be if there were another pandemic arriving under this administration. Opinion columnist for the New York Times, David French, and U.S. national editor at the Financial Times, never polite, Ed Luce. Our thanks to you both for being with us this morning.